Albert Huff's name is etched into the annals of American military history as a paragon of courage, quick thinking, and unyielding determination under fire. Serving with the 509th Parachute Infantry Battalion during the bitter campaigns of World War II, Huff distinguished himself on the battlefields of Italy in a way few soldiers ever would. On February 8, 1944, near the war-torn village of Carano, his actions under relentless enemy fire would earn him the United States military's highest honor, the Medal of Honor, and secure his place among the most celebrated combat leaders of his generation. What makes Huff's story resonate through the decades is not simply the tactical brilliance of his actions, but the personal grit that propelled him forward against seemingly insurmountable odds. Leading a small reconnaissance patrol across exposed, fire-swept terrain, he refused to be halted by the blistering concentration of enemy mortars, machine guns, and rifle fire. Each movement forward was a calculated gamble with death, yet every decision served one purpose: to safeguard his men and strike a decisive blow against a determined foe. In doing so, Huff transformed what could have been a costly stalemate into a resounding success for American forces. His heroism that day was not born in the heat of a single moment, but shaped by years of hardship, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to the soldiers beside him. The courage displayed near Carano was the culmination of a lifetime of perseverance. From his modest upbringing in Tennessee to the fierce battlefields of Europe, Huff's legacy endures as a reminder that even in humanity's darkest hours, individual valor can change the course of a fight and inspire generations yet to come. By early 1944, the Italian campaign had devolved into a grueling series of attritional battles, fought over rugged mountains, fortified towns, and treacherous coastal plains. The Allied invasion of mainland Italy in September 1943 had aimed to knock Italy out of the war and draw German forces away from the Eastern Front and the French coast. While Italy's surrender was swift, the German response was equally decisive. Fortified defensive lines, notably the Gustav and Hitler lines, transformed the peninsula into a fortress that required every mile to be earned in blood. The Battle of Anzio, launched on January 22, 1944, was designed to bypass these formidable defenses by making an amphibious landing behind German lines. The hope was to quickly seize the Alban Hills, cut off German retreat routes, and force a collapse of enemy resistance south of Rome. Instead, the Allies found themselves pinned down in a shallow beachhead, under constant artillery and counterattack. Anzio became a deadly stalemate, with both sides trading blows amidst mud, rubble, and unrelenting shellfire. It was in this environment that the 509th Parachute Infantry Battalion, an elite airborne unit with combat experience from North Africa and Salerno, found itself tasked with aggressive reconnaissance and raiding missions. These operations were essential for gathering intelligence on German positions, assessing enemy strength, and probing for weaknesses in the defensive perimeter. For soldiers like Huff, who had already seen intense combat, these missions demanded not only physical endurance, but also mental resilience in the face of near-constant danger. The terrain near Carano, Italy, where Huff's patrol would make its mark, was unforgiving. Low rolling ground left advancing troops silhouetted against the horizon, while the winter rains turned open fields into slick, treacherous expanses. The Germans had expertly sited machine guns, mortars, and artillery to dominate every approach, and the placement of minefields ensured that any movement forward would come at a steep cost. These challenges made every reconnaissance mission a perilous endeavor, where stealth, speed, and courage were the only guarantees of survival. Against this backdrop, Paul B. Huff's patrol on February 8, 1944, was more than a routine reconnaissance. It was a deliberate thrust into the jaws of the enemy's defenses. It would require the rare combination of tactical skill, decisive leadership, and personal bravery that could alter the balance in a localized sector and influence the tempo of the larger battle. Personal background: Albert Huff was born on June 23, 1918, in Cleveland, Tennessee, a small town framed by the rolling foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Growing up during the lean years of the Great Depression, Huff was no stranger to hard work or adversity. He developed a strong sense of responsibility early in life, helping to support his family while cultivating a quiet resilience that would later define his military service. The values of perseverance, loyalty, and self-reliance became central to his character long before he wore the uniform of the United States Army. Huff enlisted in the Army in June 1941, just months before the attack on Pearl Harbor propelled the United States into World War II. He volunteered for the newly formed airborne forces, drawn by the challenge and prestige of becoming a paratrooper. His training at Fort Benning, Georgia was grueling, demanding exceptional physical endurance, mental toughness, and the ability to operate under intense stress. Huff earned his silver parachutist wings, marking him as part of a pioneering elite who would take the fight directly to the enemy, by land, from the sky. Assigned to the 509th Parachute Infantry Battalion, Huff quickly proved himself in combat. The battalion first saw action in North Africa during Operation Torch in November 1942 and later at Salerno in September 1943, where they executed daring airborne and amphibious operations against entrenched German forces. Huff's performance during these campaigns cemented his reputation as a reliable and resourceful non-commissioned officer, capable of leading men through the chaos of battle. By the time the battalion was redeployed to the Anzio beachhead in early 1944, Huff had accumulated hard-earned combat experience and a reputation for fearlessness. His leadership style combined calm decisiveness with an unwavering commitment to his men's safety and mission success. Off the battlefield, he was respected for his quiet demeanor and steady presence, qualities that inspired confidence and trust among his comrades. Following his Medal of Honor action near Carano, Huff continued to serve with distinction. After the war, he remained in the Army, eventually achieving the rank of Command Sergeant Major. His post-war career included assignments that leveraged his combat leadership experience to train and mentor younger soldiers. Huff retired from active duty in 1970 after nearly 3 decades of service, leaving behind a legacy marked by valor, dedication, and humility. Paul B. Huff passed away on September 21, 1994, in Cleveland, Tennessee, the town of his birth. He was laid to rest in Fort Hill Cemetery, honored by his community, and remembered nationwide as a soldier who embodied the highest ideals of the United States Army. His name lives on not only in military history but also in the values he personified: courage, sacrifice, and steadfast devotion to duty. Medal of Honor citation. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity, at risk of life above and beyond the call of duty on 8 February 1944 near Carano, Italy. He was a squad leader with the 509th Parachute Infantry Battalion on a reconnaissance patrol. Crossing 200 yards of open terrain, under intense enemy machine gun, mortar, and artillery fire, he led his men forward until they were pinned down by withering enemy fire. Realizing the danger to his patrol, Sergeant Huff advanced alone to reconnoiter enemy positions. With complete disregard for his own safety, he charged 75 yards through concentrated fire, killing a German soldier in a foxhole and forcing 5 others to surrender. He continued forward, locating and marking enemy positions while directing his men to advance. Huff personally killed or captured several more enemy soldiers and destroyed multiple machine gun nests. His actions enabled his patrol to complete its mission and return with vital information. Sergeant Huff's outstanding gallantry and fearless leadership under fire were in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Army. Where valor was forged, what follows is a blend of recorded history and dramatized combat detail, crafted to honor the actions of Paul B. Huff while placing the reader in the midst of the events as they might have unfolded. Every element of this account is grounded in historical fact, but where the record is silent, pure accurate interpretation and combat realism have been used to bring the moment to life. The air over the Anzio beachhead was sharp with the cold bite of early February, the morning light barely cutting through a low haze that clung stubbornly to the fields outside Carano. The ground was soft and slick from days of winter rain, the earth itself reluctant to bear the weight of men in war. In the distance, the sound of intermittent artillery rumbled like distant thunder, a reminder that the German lines were never far away. Paul B. Huff crouched low, scanning the expanse of open ground before him. 200 yards of exposure stood between his reconnaissance patrol and the safety of the next hedgerow, and somewhere beyond that, the German positions they had been ordered to find. The 509th Parachute Infantry Battalion had drawn this mission because they were among the few units trusted to operate deep in contested ground without the cover of larger formations. Their task was simple in its wording, brutal in its execution. Probe the enemy defenses, map their positions, and bring the intelligence back. Huff knew the value of the mission. Artillery would not fire without knowing where to aim. But he also knew that every yard forward increased the risk of never returning. He gave the silent signal to move, and the patrol advanced, their bodies low, boots sucking at the wet earth. The first rounds came in sharp and sudden. A burst of MG-42 fire from a concealed position tore through the stillness, kicking up wet soil inches from the lead man. Mortar rounds began to drop in staggered intervals, their hollow thumps followed by the tearing crash of fragmentation. Huff threw himself flat, eyes scanning for the source, the machine gun's tracer line stitched across the open field, guiding his attention to a small rise just beyond a shallow drainage ditch. The Germans had chosen their ground well. The rise commanded the field, and anyone trying to cross it was an easy target. Pinned down and under withering fire, Huff assessed the situation in seconds. Staying put meant certain destruction. Waiting for artillery or armor support was not an option for a patrol this deep in contested ground. They had to move, and to move, the enemy's guns had to be silenced. Huff's decision was instant and absolute. He tapped the nearest man on the shoulder, gesturing for the patrol to hold position. Without waiting for acknowledgement, he broke cover and ran. The cold air burned in his lungs as he sprinted through mud and churned earth. His M1A1 Thompson submachine gun balanced in his hands. Bullets hissed past, some snapping so close he could feel the disturbed air brush against his cheek. He aimed himself toward the drainage ditch, diving in hard, water and mud splashing up around him. The cover was shallow, barely enough to keep him from the line of fire, but it offered concealment enough for his next move. Huff crawled forward, his elbows and knees digging into the wet muck, the smell of earth and cordite mixing in his nose. A German voice barked orders above the rattle of gunfire. He popped up, squeezed the trigger, and sent a burst into the nearest foxhole. A single German soldier toppled back, his weapon falling silent. Huff closed the distance, stepping into the hole and yanking the pin from a fragmentation grenade. He lobbed it into the next position before diving back into cover. The blast rolled over him, a hot wave of air and grit. As the smoke cleared, he saw movement. 5 enemy soldiers, shaken and stunned, raising their hands in surrender. Huff motioned them toward the rear, keeping his Thompson steady until one of his men could take charge of the prisoners. But there was no pause. The fight was far from over. Ahead, he could see another set of machine gun flashes cutting across the field. He needed to mark these positions for the patrol and relay them for potential artillery strikes. Pulling a small panel marker from his gear, he signaled to the rear before pressing forward again. The Germans were adjusting, shifting their fire to cut him off, but Huff was already moving in a zigzag sprint, ducking behind whatever meager cover the field offered. A splintered fence post, a shallow fold in the ground, even the wreckage of a burned-out cart, each became a waypoint in his relentless advance. His boots slipped in the muck, but his momentum carried him forward. When the next machine gun nest came into view, he was already raising his weapon, ready to strike again. Huff closed in on the next gun position, the rapid chatter of the MG-42 deafening as it spat streams of fire toward his pinned patrol. He could see the gunner's silhouette hunched over the weapon, feeding belt after belt into the smoking barrel. Dropping to a knee, Huff sighted down the Thompson and squeezed off a controlled burst. The gunner jerked backward, the machine gun faltering mid-burst before falling silent. Huff moved fast, vaulting over the lip of the emplacement, delivering another short burst into the assistant gunner as he reached for a sidearm. The acrid stench of burned powder hung in the air, mingling with the metallic tang of blood and wet earth. He didn't linger. Every second spent in one spot was an invitation for enemy mortars to find him. Huff darted from the nest toward a small grove of twisted olive trees that offered concealment, his breath coming in ragged pulls. As he moved, he pulled out his field compass and quickly noted bearings, critical for translating this mental map into actionable intelligence. Through the branches, he caught glimpses of the German rear positions. interlocking trenches, ammo crates stacked under camouflage netting, and the glint of steel helmets moving between cover. Sudden mortar impacts rocked the ground nearby, the blasts throwing soil and fragments in all directions. Huff dropped flat, covering his head as shrapnel hissed overhead. His ears rang, but he forced himself up and moved again, angling toward a low rise that would give him a vantage point over the entire sector. The climb was steep and slick, the mud pulling at his boots, but when he reached the crest, the view justified the risk. From here, he could see the enemy's primary defensive line in detail. Below, the Germans were repositioning, clearly aware that their forward nests had been compromised. A squad was setting up a new machine gun in the shadow of a stone farmhouse, its crumbling walls pocked with bullet holes. Huff steadied himself, took careful aim, and fired in short, precise bursts. The crew scattered, one man crumpling to the ground. Seizing the moment, Huff signaled again to his patrol with the marker panel, indicating the location of this strong point. The panel's bright color was visible even through the haze, a silent promise to the men watching that he was still alive and working the mission. The return fire was immediate and ferocious. Rifle rounds cracked around him, slamming into the dirt inches from his position. Huff rolled to the side, letting gravity carry him into a shallow depression, and crawled toward a gap in the hedge line. The smell of crushed vegetation filled his nostrils as he pushed through, the hedge snagging at his uniform and web gear. He emerged into a small pasture, the churned mud littered with spent casings from earlier skirmishes. From here, the route back to his man would be even more dangerous. The Germans were now fully alert, and any movement across the open terrain would draw concentrated fire. Huff took one last moment to study the layout of the defenses, committing every trench line, every firing point, and every possible approach route to memory. His mission was complete, but survival was far from certain. With his Thompson at the ready, he broke from cover and sprinted across the field, weaving erratically to throw off enemy aim. Bullets whipped past, some striking so close they sprayed him with stinging dirt. His legs burned, his lungs screamed for air, but he did not slow until he slid into the relative safety of the patrol's position. The men looked up in astonishment. Not only had he returned, but he had dismantled key enemy defenses and captured prisoners in the process. Huff quickly relayed his observations, marking positions on the map and providing bearing data that would allow supporting units to strike with precision. The patrol began its withdrawal under the same threat of fire they had faced on approach, but now with the advantage of knowing where the enemy's guns lay. Every man in that patrol understood the truth. Their survival and mission success were the direct result of one man's decision to take the fight to the enemy. The intelligence Huff brought back would shape the following day's operations, allowing American forces to neutralize the defenses that had bled the beachhead for weeks. His actions near Carano stood as a testament to the power of decisive leadership under fire, where one soldier's determination could break the deadlock and turn danger into opportunity. Reflections and lessons learned. Paul B. Huff's actions near Carano remain a powerful illustration of leadership born from decisive action in the face of overwhelming danger. His willingness to leave cover, advance alone under heavy fire, and neutralize multiple enemy positions was more than an act of bravery. It was a demonstration of how individual initiative can change the trajectory of an entire operation. In combat, hesitation can cost lives, but Huff's decisiveness allowed his patrol to survive, accomplish its mission, and bring back intelligence critical to the broader fight. From a leadership perspective, Huff exemplified the principle of leading from the front. His patrol's survival was not a matter of issuing orders from safety, but of setting the example through personal action. This leadership style not only inspired confidence in his men, but also created a ripple effect. Each member of the patrol knew that their leader would take the same risks he asked of them. Such trust is a rare and invaluable commodity in war, and it can mean the difference between mission failure and success. Huff's courage also speaks to the role of adaptability in high-stakes environments. He faced an enemy who held every advantage, entrenched positions, superior fields of fire, and prepared defenses. Yet, by moving unpredictably, using available terrain to mask his approach, and capitalizing on enemy surprise, he dismantled their advantage piece by piece. This adaptability is as relevant in modern conflicts and civilian leadership challenges as it was on the battlefields of World War II. Finally, his story is a lesson in resilience. Huff endured intense physical and psychological stress in those moments near Carano, sprinting under fire, engaging in close-quarters combat, and making rapid tactical decisions with his life on the line. His ability to stay focused on the mission, despite fear and exhaustion, underscores the importance of mental toughness. In today's world, resilience remains a cornerstone for anyone facing high-pressure situations. Whether in military service, business, or personal challenges, Huff's heroism is not merely a record of one battle in one war. It is a timeless reminder of the qualities that define exceptional leadership: courage, decisiveness, adaptability, and resilience. These lessons, forged in the crucible of combat, continue to inspire those who strive to lead with integrity and determination. Closing, Paul B. Huff's name will forever stand among those who faced the fiercest trials of war and emerged as symbols of unshakable resolve. On that cold February day near Carano, he turned the impossible into the achievable, not through luck or chance, but through deliberate courage, honed skill, and unwavering commitment to his mission and his men. His actions were not only instrumental in the success of his patrol, but also emblematic of the spirit that carried the Allied forces through the grueling Italian campaign. Today, his story serves as more than a historical account. It is a call to remember the cost of freedom and the personal sacrifices made by those who fight to preserve it. Huff's legacy endures in the lessons he left behind: that leadership demands presence, that courage is a choice made in the moment of greatest fear, and that the resolve of a single determined individual can shape the outcome for many. In honoring Paul B. Huff, we honor all who have stepped forward into danger so that others might live. His example invites us not only to remember, but also to act, to lead with integrity, to stand firm when it matters most, and to ensure that such valor is never forgotten.